We welcome you to the Bible study, Job chapter 25. If you would, turn in your Bibles to Job 25, and let's begin. The chapter consists of 6 verses. Very short chapter, in fact, the shortest chapter in the book. Let's look at it verse by verse today. Man is not righteous. This is the point made by Bildad in the passage. Verse 1, Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, this is Bildad's third and final speech. We saw the first in Job 8 and 1, the second in chapter 18 and 1, and now the third in chapter 25 and 1. This speech is the last speech given by the 3 friends, and is also, as I mentioned, the shortest speech recorded in the book. Job wanted to come before God to present his case, Job 23, 3-4. However, Bildad argues that in response to what Job has said, the man is not righteous before God. If Job did stand before God, Bildad says that he would not be vindicated. However, what Bildad says of Job would also apply to Bildad himself, as well as any other man. At the conclusion of Job's previous speech, he offered the following challenge to his friends about what he had said in Job 24 and 25. Now, if it is not so, who will prove me a liar and make my speech worth nothing? What a challenge. However, Bildad did not answer Job's challenge. He simply repeats some of what was already said by Eliphaz. Also note that Zophar did not even speak a third time. He quit. Verse 2. Dominion and fear belong to him. He makes peace in his high places. Bildad says that dominion belongs to God. This describes God's supreme authority, his rule and reign. Bildad also says that fear belongs to God. According to Job, it is the excellence or majesty of God that causes fear or dread. Job 13:11. Look also at Job 31 and 23. God makes peace in his high places. If Bildad refers to these high places as the heights of heaven, Job 16 and 19, then he is saying that God makes peace in heaven by his rule, his dominion, fear. Compare with Job 16:19, where he uses the same word translated as high. Surely even now my witness is in heaven, and my evidence is on high. Heaven and high are parallel. And so he may, as far as high places concerned, here in chapter 25 and 2, be speaking of the high places of heaven. Again, look at Job 4:18, Job 15:15. We noted some New Testament passages, I believe, a while back in our study, when we studied some of the earlier verses in Job 4:18 and Job 15:15. But I noted 2 Peter 2 and 4. For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into the chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment. And in that passage, he mentions angels who sinned. And again in Jude, verse 6, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. So perhaps he has reference to heaven and to the angels in heaven, and his rule, his reign, his dominion. The word fear in some versions reads awe. Fear can mean terror, but fear can also mean awe, and perhaps both are referred to here by Bildad. Verse 3. Is there any number to his armies? Upon whom does his light not rise? Bildad asks a series of questions in Job 25, 3-4. First, can God's armies be numbered? He asked rhetorically, expecting a negative answer. No, man is not able to count the armies of God. There is no number to his armies. Now, whatever Bildad meant by God's armies, perhaps the host of heaven, celestial bodies, or perhaps angels. And we do note that both are numerous, and angels are said to be without number. They're limitless. And so the power of God is limitless and beyond the comprehension of man. This term armies, the same Hebrew term is also used 2 other times in the book of Job. Job used this term poetically 2 other times in the book. First, Job said how he felt as though God's troops or armies had come together against him and had encamped around his tent. So he uses the picture of an earthly army surrounding his tent. He felt as if he had been surrounded. Job 19:12. Second, Job said that prior to his calamity, he was a leader and that he dwelt as a king in the army. Job 29:25. Not that Job is necessarily a king, but that he was as a leader of the people, like a king might be in the army. Second, does not God's light rise on everyone? Yes, the light of God shines on all. What does he mean by light? He could be speaking physically of the sun, again, as a celestial body. It's true that God created the sun as well as everything else in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. You see the Genesis account. Yes, it is true that the sun, created by God, rises on everyone. It's not necessarily what he meant, but perhaps he meant that. Literally, God created the sun rises on everyone on earth. Or it could be speaking in a different fashion as far as God and his light, his brilliance shining on everyone. Verse 4. How then can man be righteous before God? Or how can he be pure who is born of a woman? Bildad continues his questions. Third, how can a man be righteous before God? He expects a negative answer. No, a mortal cannot be just before him. Fourth, can a man who is born of a woman be pure? No, a man cannot be pure, according to Bildad. Some versions read right for righteous or in the right. Eliphaz already said that man is not pure or righteous. Job 15:14, what is man that he could be pure? And he who was born of a woman, that he could be righteous. Again, look also at Job 4:17. So here you have Bildad referencing what the other friend had already said, Eliphaz, in his speech in Job 15:14. Verse 5. If even the moon does not shine and the stars are not pure in his sight, how much less man who is a maggot and a son of man who is a worm? Let's look at verse 5. Bildad says that even the moon does not shine. Well, the moon does shine, but even the moon does not shine or is not bright before God. Who created the moon? Who's the maker of the moon? Even the stars, Bildad says, are not pure in God's sight. Certainly, God, the maker, shines brighter than the moon and shines purer than the stars he made. Genesis 1:16. He made the stars also. And so we see reference in that passage to, while not named sun and moon, we see the greater light and the lesser light, greater light to rule the day, and lesser light to rule the night, and made the stars also. Again, evidence of the awesome power of God, the creator. All countless bodies, luminescent bodies in the heavens. But we see God and his creation, nothing in comparison to him. So even if the moon does not shine or is not bright in comparison to him, and the stars are not pure in his sight, that's interesting to refer to stars as being pure. It may simply mean here in this reference that, well, the moon does not shine and the stars are not bright. It may be used, pure may be used in the sense of bright in that passage. But it's also used in another passage we studied earlier as pure in reference to man. Both Eliphaz and Bildad used the term pure. Again, compare Job 25:5 with Job 15:15. And while Bildad speaks of celestial bodies, the moon and the stars, he might be referring again to the high places, which may be the heights of heaven. Job 25:2. Eliphaz had argued that God even charges his angels with error back in Job 4:18. Compare that with Job 15:15. If God puts no trust in his saints and the heavens are not pure in his sight, how much less man who is abominable and filthy, who drinks iniquity like water. Genesis 15:16. So back in Job 15:16, Job 15:15, if God puts no trust in his saints and the heavens are not pure, there's that word again, pure in his sight, God's sight. So here he says that the stars are not pure in his sight. The only difference here in the translation is the word stars rather than heavens. Job 15:15 versus Job 25 here in verse 5. So when he talks about the moon and the stars, Eliphaz was talking about saints and these angels of God, that even they are not pure in his sight. And if they are not pure in his sight, then what about man? Verse 6. How much less man who is a maggot and a son of man who is a worm? And so Bildad says how man is much less pure. A maggot, he's a maggot. Wow. And a son of man, a worm. When you read the maggot and the worm, you see man at his lowest state. Again, Job 15:16, how much less man who is abominable and filthy, who drinks iniquity like water. In the previous speech, Job said how the maggot, which is evidence of decay, should feed on the wicked sweetly in Job 24:20. Again, it's translated there as worm, so worm or maggot. Job 4 and 18 and 19. Again, if he puts no trust in his servants, if he charges his angels with error, how much more those who dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed before a moth. And so the basic idea here of these 6 verses by Bildad is that man is not righteous. Again, he could have included himself in that point, not just Job. Speak briefly here concerning what some refer to inherited sinfulness. Job 25 and 4, or how can he be pure who is born of a woman? In the context, Bildad argues that man is not pure in God's sight. His point is that God is far above man, and that's true. However, the unscriptural doctrine of total depravity, inherited sinfulness or sin, is not even under discussion here in this passage. Some people who support the doctrine might refer to it here in this verse. There are clear passages, however, that teach that sin is not inherited. For example, Ezekiel 18:20. The soul who sins shall die. The son shall not bear the guilt of the father, nor the father bear the guilt of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon himself, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon himself. Yes, there are consequences to sin, and sometimes the innocent experience those consequences. But as far as bearing the guilt, that is for the sinner. It is not inherited. And certainly it's not taught in this passage. Well, that concludes the end of this short chapter of the book of Job. But we hope that it's been helpful in better understanding these verses. Some look at this chapter and say that Bildad and the friends have given up. They've exhausted their arguments. Yeah, perhaps that's the case. Maybe they're tired of talking. Whatever it is, we see that he wraps it up in 6 verses here in this speech. Next time, we'll see Job as he speaks. We thank you for being here today, and we hope that you'll continue to study the Bible and to see what it says. Learn more of God's Word. Thank you for being here today.